Hello everyone, welcome to Self-Empowerment TV. This is Brad Johnson here, and I have a special guest with me today. This is Wendy Kennedy. Wendy, thank you so much for being a part of Self-Empowerment TV, and of course we are feeling a bit of the retrograde today. I've had a bit of technical difficulties getting on the video, but hopefully the Skype gods are smiling on us and everything starts to be alright. So again, Wendy, thank you very much for being on the interview here today.
Hi Brad, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
No problem at all. So let's begin, Wendy, by just looking at your beginnings relating to channeling. I know you've been doing it for quite some time now. Would you like to tell everybody basically how the channeling began for you and move more into that particular type of alignment?
Sure. In 1994, I started having visions, and I didn't really know what they were. And after I did some research, I discovered that they were actually past lives that I was seeing and remembering. And while I was doing the research, I came across channeling, and of course I didn't really know what it was. I didn't know anybody who did it. I just knew that that was something that I was supposed to be doing. And so I found a couple of books on it, and at the time, there really weren't many people out there. You had Jane Roberts and the Seth material, and you had Sanaya Roman and her book, Opening the Channel, which is a great book if you're looking to do that for yourself. And I started doing some of the exercises, and I felt like I was having really visceral responses, but it was really challenging for me to channel verbally. And so I put it aside, and then I go back to it a few months later. And in early '95, I sat down one day and I knew I was supposed to be doing automatic writing. And then that's when everything kind of opened up, and I started working with my angelic guides, and other celestial beings started showing up. And then I put the pen down because I was hearing it well before I was writing it, and I started channeling verbally, and that's when the Pleiadian Collective came through, because they actually work with tone and sound, and they needed me to channel verbally so that they could modulate and work with frequencies.
Oh wow. What was the process that you were going through when you were beginning the automatic writing phase? Was there a certain process that you felt you went into, or did it just kind of happen spontaneously?
Yeah, it kind of happened spontaneously. I mean, the exercises I had been doing were meditations and visualizations, and actually for that whole period, from '94 to '95, I was taking meditation classes and learning how to ground and center myself and get focused. But once I learned how to get into my heart center, I think everything kind of shifted for me then, and once I made that connection, it was much easier for me to go back and establish it. And for me, it's been probably one of the easiest things for me to do. I'm grateful for that I don't have to sit down and meditate for 20 minutes. I know exactly where that frequency is, my body remembers, and I can go straight to it.
So when actually entering the channeling state to vocalize what you're receiving from the Pleiadians, is there a certain way of how they come through? Is there a certain, I guess you could say, premise that you feel through your abilities to let you know that they're there and that they're looking to commence a flow of channeling through you?
How do I describe it? I guess I don't really think much about it. It almost feels like a push when I first start channeling, and within the first couple of seconds, there is a frequency modulation that they do, and they're working with harmonics and overtones, so my voice kind of sounds a little gravelly, or it will shift after that. And really what they're doing is they're working either on me if I'm doing it for myself, or they're working on other people to help move their energy field. But it always feels like a bit of a push when it's time for words to come out. I guess that's the best way I describe it.
Are there quite a few other people that maybe you have met or you have heard of that are channeling the collective consciousness of the Pleiadians like this as well?
Well, there are a number of people who actually work with beings from the Pleiades, but I think they're different collectives. Nora Harold is a dear friend of mine, and probably, I'm trying to think what year it was exactly, I think it was '96. After I've been channeling for a year, I met Nora through another friend, and the three of us started channeling and working together. So that was really my training ground. So Nora does channel the Pleiadian Collective. It is the same group, but it has a slightly different feeling to it because it's processed through her or it's processed through me, and it's impossible for the channel's energy not to color the information in some way as it comes through. But if you listen, you'll notice the same frequency in there. You'll feel the same frequency coming through both of us.
Exactly, and I think that's the thing as well too. Is a lot of people say, "Well, you're channeling very similar entities. You know, they're from the Pleiades, but why are messages different?" And I feel it has something to do with, again, everybody's own personal vibrational flavor.
Yeah.
Is that each of their flavors are coming through and giving particular perspectives. Has that come up with you at times, saying that, you know, there's just different types of information coming from beings from the Pleiades, and, you know, how you would address that?
Definitely. You know, the Pleiadians, they have their own vibe, and there's certainly an agenda, and they'll be the first to tell you that they have their own agenda, and I know that there are contracts that I have with them and certain bits and pieces of information that we discussed prior to my incarnation that we wanted to make sure came through. And, you know, other beings that I work with beings from Sirius, and their energy is different. They're not ninth dimensional, and the Pleiadians that I work with don't have physical form. They are beings of light. I think a lot of times when people think of beings from the Pleiades, they always think of blonde-haired, blue-eyed beings, and that's just one of the species that's there in the Pleiadian system. It's a vast system.
Yes, it's a big star cluster. I myself have had quite a lot of different contacts with the Pleiadians in different forms: third density, fourth density, fifth density, etc. Some of them are aquatic looking, some of them very much look like marine animals, some of them are human, just different colors, some of them are just swirls of light essence. Same with the Syrians as well too. There's just dozens and dozens of different species. The entity that I channel, Adronis, is basically just within the star of Sirius. It's very intense, a lot of just very powerful vibration. But with the Pleiadian Collective Consciousness, have they mentioned how your interrelationship between yourself and them have been aligned in this way, of what they've shared with you of that?
Yeah, there are about 2,500 beings in the collective, and I am, or an aspect of me, is part of that 2,500, which is why they're working with me. So that's why I agreed. I said, all right, we'll share our perspective. I'll go down, I'll be in physical form, and and we can work together.
So one of the 2,500 then.
Yeah, and I think that's true for most of the beings that I work with. I've either incarnated with them before, and there's already that connection, or it's another aspect of myself.
Oh, wow. Excellent. And I think Nora's, when I was interviewing Nora as well too, I think she had something similar to that as well too, with her connection with the Pleiades as well, that she's just communicating with the aspects to which she is of them, and they are with her. And that's, again, my own particular role with Adronis as well too, as being part of like a Council of 12 with Sirius as well, or a Council of 9, sorry. But anyways, why don't we go ahead and bring in the Pleiadian Collective Consciousness and see exactly what they have to share with us today.
Yes, hello dears. This is the 9th Dimensional Pleiadian Collective, and it is a pleasure and an honor to have the opportunity to connect with you all. So, you know, part of what we do is working with you through tone and sound, and we like to modulate frequency, and we'd like to encourage you to start working yourselves with tone and sound, to play around, to see what tones vibrate where in your body, which ones feel good, which ones you feel are helping you to dismantle or dissolve frequencies that you are looking to let go of or no longer hold in your field. And it is a process of exploration for you all to start stepping into your own power and deciding that you want to explore and know yourself, because regardless of the information that we can bring through and give to you, you have the best answers for yourselves. And you know, we can give you a perspective, but again, you've got the best perspective for you. So how may we be of service today? What would you like to talk about?
Well, thank you very much, my Pleiadian friends, very much for being here today. I just want to basically discuss with you in regards to your relationship of what's happening here on planet Earth, and with everybody that is starting to make this large shift into the grander state of their natural consciousness. What is your particular perspective in regards to the shift that is taking place right now on a very large collective level?
Well, we're fascinated by it. We're honored to be able to witness and to some extent participate as we communicate with you. And, you know, this is something that we agreed to work with you on, and feel very, as we said, deeply honored to be able to share our perspective. And there are many, many perspectives throughout the universe. And it is quite the service that you're doing as you're going through this challenging process, as you are learning to release fear and integrate, by releasing, beliefs that you've held in your field that have limited your ability to run your full divine essence through the physical form, and that's changing. And as you do that, you're upgrading the physical form into something that's brand new. And if we can be of service in any way to that, we're happy to do so. Now, our primary focus for this collective is with records. So we share what we can of understanding your galactic history, because as you understand that, it can make your journey somewhat easier. It will give you another perspective so that you can release at a deeper level what it is that you're processing, the fears, the challenges. And you know, we don't hold the only version of truth, and what's important for you all as you go is to check in with yourselves to decide on a moment-to-moment basis what your version of the truth is, because that will change as your own frequency changes. So we're here to share our perspective of history, to share an understanding of time and the illusion of time, and also just to give you some practical feedback. How do you apply this knowledge, wisdom, theory into practical day-to-day living, which is the challenge that most of you are going through right now. You've got the theory down, but it's the walking that theory, the experiencing and living that theory that you are struggling with at the moment.
Yes, and I would agree with that. I think there's a lot of people that have talked to me about stating that they are starting to live a very fulfilling life within themselves. However, there's this pit of void that they feel that as they start to move into their own passion, into their own joy, that they feel that there's this particular void that's coming through because they feel that they cannot bring other people along for the ride relating to what they're personally experiencing of joy. And I feel that this is part of the void that they're feeling. What form of advice would you give to those people who feel that they love what they do, but it saddens them to see that so many other people aren't really experiencing the type of love that they are right now?
Well, it's important for you all to remember that this is an individual choice. And even from where we stand, it's probably one of the more challenging things we often witness and have to remind ourselves of when you are in struggle and in discomfort, is that it is a choice. And we honor you for exploring that vibrational selection. And the way that you can be of greatest service to others is to live your light to the fullest, to be the living example. Because when you are really happy and you are really holding a lot of light, a lot of joy, a lot of exuberance, others will notice. And it's a reminder to them that that's an option. You all forget you have an option to be happy, or you have an option to see things in a positive light, because you have a tendency through human conditioning to look at the negative. And you stay in this loop and keep going back to the negative over and over and over again. But if you can remind yourself that, one, you're never separate from others, even if they're vibrating at a lower rate, for you to hold and maintain your frequency and to continue elevating it is the greatest service that you can do for others. And to remind yourself to hold that vision for them, that they're capable of accessing new frequencies. Because if you are worried that they're not going to make it, or you're worried that they're suffering, or you're upset because you feel that they're suffering, that is your own fear. Those are your files, your filters to be processed. And that's something, again, for you to go and to look at, because at the soul level, there is a part of you that recognizes the divinity in them and honors them for their vibrational selection. And when you send that doubt out that they're not capable of accessing higher frequencies, then they pick up on that. And they can reinforce their own fears with that energy that you're sending them. So if that helps you all to let go and to know that others are exactly where they need to be in order to have exactly the experience that they are choosing to have, that will help you to release some of your fears and worries about being alone and about feeling separate, because separation is the primary fear that you all carry. It's the core wound, if you will, because in order to play in this dimension, you had to take on that illusion of separation. It was just impossible to play in the game without it. And so, in a sense, it's also the last one for you to reintegrate, because it's the first and it's the deepest.
And going back to a lot of the galactic history, in that sense, what has been the Pleiadian role relating to, I guess you could say, the beginnings of the human race and on Earth here? If we're looking back, I guess you could say, at the beginnings, to when humanity first started to come upon the Earth, what do we feel was the Pleiadian perspective relating to those beginning times?
Well, we're going to give you a version. It's not the only version. And why we say that is because dependent on which now moment you're standing on, what you consider your past to be can be a different version than what you were standing on 10 minutes ago, all right, or a year ago. Now, we would consider ourselves, in a sense, to be progenitors, but there is a lot of history between our seeding and your modern civilization. So most of what you experience, we would say, starts in the Lyra system. All right, it starts in the Lyran star system, and with your recent history, what you would perceive to be Lemuria was seeded by the Lyrans. Now, you know, our history with the Lyrans is quite extensive, and it's merged at this point. It is so interrelated that our two systems, as far as the genetics go, is quite homogenized for many of the species. But, you know, if we had to give ourselves a label, we would also say that, you know, some of us have donated our genetic material, others of us have offered to be guardians, to remind you of your origins and to help you as best as we can or could along the way.
Now, with the Pleiadians, are you yourselves offshoots of the Lyran star system in the earlier times?
Way back, yes.
Yes.
Way back. You know, you're talking about, well, from your time reference point, billions of years.
Yes.
But, you know, to us, in a sense, it's yesterday and it's tomorrow at the same time, because time's concurrent.
Just a moment, exactly. So, exactly, and so looking at that particular type of Earth history from the Pleiadian point of view as well, too, and again, like you said, there's a lot of different perspectives. You know, even Sirius has its own perspective, Andromeda would have its own perspective, Arcturus, etc. Moving from those particular beginning times and to where we are right now, what is your own particular perspective on the progression of those particular two timelines that have now started to condense themselves and to feel that we started from there and now here we are right now? What particular perspective do you share with that?
Could you say the question again, dear? Because we're not quite
yes,
what you're looking for.
Looking at the very beginning of humanity,
yes,
starting on planet Earth and moving all those progressions to where we are right now, what do you feel has transformed the most? What is your progression, understanding, on a perspective of how we have evolved, I guess you could say, from that point to where we are right now? Has things been getting, shall we say, a lot more evolved, or do you feel that there's been kind of a shaky ground in between?
Well, you've got both going concurrently.
Or more
we would say the greatest change is your ability to feel compassion.
Okay.
And that really was the name of the game. Earth was created and generated as a grand experiment. Now, there have been several, we'll call them seedings and modification of the planet. And what it was designed to do or what the original template was. Just as you all come in with a blueprint and things that you want to explore and try to work on, it's the same thing for a planetary body. And some of that was modified along the way as the galaxy took a look around and said, you know what, we've got these issues and we're not really able to integrate them, so why don't we put all the issues on one small planet and see if we can do it together. And this was a process of dissension and reascension, and you're in the reascension part right now. So your ability to hold more compassion is part of what was important to bring to the galactic game, because when you get into the higher realms, you have an awareness that you are a creator being. And if you don't like something, you can change it. But from the 3D perspective, it seems very challenging, it feels very hard, and when you've been in that position and you know something is challenging or difficult, you have a lot more compassion for somebody who is struggling. And so you have been nurturing and developing a stronger sense of compassion, and as you are learning to hold that in your own energetic field, you are sending it off to other aspects of yourself in other timelines, in other lifetimes, and you're also sending it off to your genetic family. And Earth has genetic material from thousands of worlds, so that's a lot of genetic family to share the information with. So when you ask us what your greatest success is, in a sense, or where we see, you know, the growth, it really has to do with this sense of compassion. Now, many of you would look around and say, well, yes, but look at the state of the world. It's incredibly negative. We're brutalizing each other. But we'll also say this: because you're existing in duality, when you've got higher highs, you also have its polar opposite. You also have lower lows. So that those two things, you can't escape one without the other. And that's in part why you're seeing such dramatic expressions of separation, of control, manipulation, and you're coming into a greater sense of awareness of all of these frequencies transpiring on the planet, so that you can see them and take a look at your own personal lives and see where you're playing out those same patterns, those same frequencies, so that they may be integrated in your personal life. And that's how you create the external change, how you create the planetary change and elevate the frequency. And eventually you elevate it enough to cross the dimensional barrier. So we would say compassion is your strength, and it is the gift that you share with the rest of the universe. It's a brand new universal game as you are sharing and changing that awareness in everyone else.
Excellent. Very wonderful. And going back to the Pleiadian Collective, as Wendy was saying that there is a 2,500 capacity, so to speak, of the Pleiadian Collective. Are there quite a lot of other, I guess you'd say, aspects of that 2,500 that are contained entirely on planet Earth, or is there just basically certain remnants of that capacity contained on planet Earth that you still personally communicate with in your own way?
Some aspects. Not a whole lot. Not, after you think about how many beings are on the planet, 7 billion, so not a whole lot that we are communicating with in a direct way. Some chose to incarnate to the planet, others wasn't really on their desired list of experiences. They prefer to work from a different dimensional range. So we would say probably about 200 to 300 beings that we engage with are part of aspects of the collective. And then others of you who resonate with us, it's because your overall frequency and your memories of the messages and what you wanted to trigger in your own awareness is in alignment with our frequencies.
Excellent. And with Wendy's own personal journey, of course, coming onto Earth, what was her particular, I guess you could say, previous role just before coming onto planet Earth? Was she existing as you are, as this ninth dimensional collective consciousness, or did she have another type of, I guess you could say, aspect that she was a part of before coming upon the Earth plane?
Well, it's a rather difficult question for us to answer because, as you recall, time doesn't really exist. So It's all concurrent. So to say before coming to Earth, what was she doing? It's just a matter of where was her energy and focus. You know, she's been in other star systems. One of the things that she really wanted to do was to test the waters in different systems and to really understand what was going on so that she could bring that knowledge and wisdom here. So she spent time in Lyra, she spent time in Andromeda, she spent time in Sirius, Orion, and all the other major players, because that was important to her. What she likes to, as a soul, have access to and personal experience of is a large or wide range of vibrational expression in order to see the big picture. So in a sense, we would say before coming to Earth, she spent time in all those other systems so that she'd have reference point for the galactic game.
Oh, excellent. And this is, again, very true for so many others that are coming upon the planet, especially with a lot of the new children, I guess you could say, that are coming upon the planet right now. A lot of them have been, you know, really almost looking at an entire new human species. Yes. What is your perspective in regards to the new children, the ones who are just being born right now, that are coming onto the planet, and what they can do, what you feel a lot of their roles on a collective level are going to do to usher in this aspect of the new population?
Well, they certainly are teachers, first and foremost. They're coming plugged into the fifth dimensional collective consciousness. So, and you're even seeing it for the last 15 years or so with children, that they have a very challenging time understanding how most of you function. Your lack of truthfulness, your lack of concern for the collective energy, your lack of concern for the planet, because they understand that they are both an individuated consciousness as well as part of a collective. And for those of you who are, well, we'll simply say 15 years and older, you are more aligned and focused on your individuated consciousness, and you're having to expand into that multi-dimensional aspect of yourself, the collective aspect of you. So they're here to work with that, and yes, they have different wiring, they have different, what we will call for the moment dietary needs, because you all are upgrading that system. You eat currently to absorb consciousness, because you've forgotten how to work with the breath and how to work with the sun and receive consciousness energy, divine light energy. And so their dietary needs are also going to be different. They're not going to be able to consume foods in the way that you currently do. And the way that looks in a day-to-day reality is food intolerances and allergies. And there are more and more of you awakening to working with the breath and with the solar energies.
And of course, it's with the breath as well, too, that, you know, making sure that our air is moving into a nice cleanliness, into a purity. From what I've received a lot, not only from other people, but from my own guidance as well, too, that Earth had just this, you know, once beautiful form of, I guess you could say, pollination with all the fruit and all the vegetables. It was basically in the air that as soon as you ingested air, that was your meal.
Yes.
So as soon as you were out in the sun, that was your meal as well, too. So a type of photosynthesis as well, too. And so I would imagine that this is exactly where we're moving back into, relating to that aspect of, you know, the air that becomes our sustainment, as well as the sun and the light.
Absolutely. And, you know, most of that shift in your, we'll call it the healthiness of your environment, happens as you all get healthier inside. And what we mean by that is releasing all of the fears. Because if you cannot see yourself in perfection, how in the world are you going to create a perfect world? You can't. You can't create a healthy world unless you see yourself and embody that energy and frequency for you. Because Earth is also a reflection. Right?
Absolutely.
So many of you want to go out and do, and it's not that we're not telling you to do that, but if you're going to take that external action, make sure you're also taking internal action, that you are taking stock of what's going on inside of you, meaning your emotions, your thoughts, and your feelings.
Very much so. So thank you very much, Ninth Dimensional Pleiadian Collective. Did you have any last thought, I guess you could say, before we conclude this interview today?
Well, the last thing we'll say is that for many of you who are struggling, and November is going to be a very intense month for you all, grounding is going to be vital to you feeling like you've got energy, stability, and frankly, sanity. Many of you will feel like a top that's been spun. So grounding and connecting to your body is going to be really, really important. So any visualization that allows you to focus on the body will help you to do that. You don't have to do anything that's, 30 minutes long. A quick check-in with yourself to breathe and feel that connection with your body will suffice. So feel free to call on us directly. You don't need Wendy. All you have to do is put yourself in your heart center, and you can do that by thinking of something that makes you smile. And ask your question, listen, and until then, we'll be watching and waiting and sending many well wishes.
Very good. Thank you so much.
It's our pleasure. Hello.
Hi, Wendy. Yes, great information, fantastic information, very much on par to what I've been receiving as well too. A lot. It's a delightful energy. It's almost like these sparkles are just raining down as the energy comes through. So it's very similar to another being I channel known as Rayar, and it just puts a smile on your face. So it's just beautiful harmonic energy with the Pleiadian Collective. So thank you so much for bringing them in. Wendy, how do people get a hold of you? Do you have a website that you can share?
I do. You can find me online at higherfrequencies.net. So that's higherfrequencies plural.net.
And do you have a Facebook as well?
I do, and that's also Higher Frequencies.
Oh, great. Excellent.
Yeah.
So go ahead and feel free to check out Wendy's website and Wendy's Facebook. And of course, Wendy, as well as Rob Gauthier and myself, will be part of Cosmic Panel that's going to be coming up here on October 27th on Sunday. So there's going to be a simultaneous challenge. So all the delightful, wonderful information you heard from Wendy and the Pleiadian Collective is going to be there, as well as perspective from Rob Gauthier channeling Trodbar Yitni. And of course, they'll be there channeling Adronis. So you can just go to the link on the description here, and you can go ahead and register for that event. Really looking forward to that with you, Wendy, and of course with Rob. So thank you very much, Wendy, for being a part of Self-Empowerment TV today. I really appreciate it, and looking forward to speaking to you again on Sunday and in times ahead after that as well.
Oh, thank you, Brad. I really appreciate it. It was fun.